Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're investigating a phenomenon that literally dictates the trajectory of your financial life, yet somehow it remains deeply misunderstood by most of us. It's a silent force, an invisible tide that's actively eroding your stored wealth while you're fast asleep. So let's deconstruct the data, the mechanics, and the undeniable, sometimes harsh reality of what actually happens to your hard-earned capital over time. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, checking your bank account on your phone, and discovering a chunk of your life savings is just missing. No hacker got into your account, your bank didn't make a glitchy error, and the crazy thing is the numbers on your screen, they look exactly the same. Yet the actual utility of that money, the real hours of sweat and labor it represents, has just vanished into thin air. Well, that invisible daily force is called inflation. And while most of us barely even notice it on a day-to-day basis, over months and decades, it acts as a literal silent thief. It has this immense compounding power to quietly destroy wealth and completely suffocate your purchasing power. So understanding its mechanics, that's absolutely crucial. It's arguably the single most vital financial defense you can master. Chapter 1, The Mechanics of the Hidden Tax. Look back a century and the economic reality is pretty stark. 100 years ago, a tiny amount of money bought you significantly more than it does today. By formal definition, inflation is just the general increase in prices over time, which causes the exact same currency to buy fewer goods and services. It's like this massive gravitational pull that impacts absolutely everyone, from a college student buying textbooks to an entire nation's government. To put that into perspective, consider a super simple analogy. Let's say a burger costs you $5 today. If historical trends continue, that exact same burger is inevitably going to cost $7 or $8 in the future. Now, the physical burger hasn't changed at all. The ingredients, the size, the calories, they're all completely identical. The only variable that shifted is the fundamental weakness of the currency itself. And this is exactly why economists classify inflation as a hidden tax. Chapter 2, The Culprits Behind the Crime. So, how does this actually happen? Well, the data points us to three main macroeconomic drivers. First up is increased demand. When an economy is running hot and demand outpaces supply, businesses naturally raise prices. Second, we have rising production costs. If it costs more for labor, fuel, or raw materials, those expenses get passed right down to you, the consumer. And finally, the money supply. When governments inject more currency into the system, the total pool expands. Think about it. With more money chasing the exact same amount of goods, every single dollar becomes fundamentally less valuable. Chapter 3, The Hidden Cost of Cash. Now, we have to address a pretty chilling reality for millions of people out there who are genuinely just trying to do the right thing. Imagine hoarding your cash under a mattress for 20 years, or even just leaving it sitting in a zero-interest checking account. To a saver, this feels totally safe, right? It feels like a psychological fortress against market volatility. But here's the kicker. While the actual number of dollars remains identical, your purchasing power collapses. You are actively bleeding wealth without spending a single dime. The math here is incredibly unforgiving. If inflation averages just 3% annually, which, by the way, is a historically standard expectation, your money suffers a steady, ominous decline. It might just feel like pennies on the dollar at first, but compounded over decades, that loss is catastrophic. The cash you viewed as your ultimate safety net is systematically evaporating in real economic terms. And this continuous drain doesn't just hit luxury items. It targets absolute survival necessities. We're talking food, housing, transportation, healthcare, education, and energy. When the prices of these foundational pillars rise faster than wages, the psychological toll is immense. Families actively feel poorer. The experience is suffocating financial pressure, even if their paychecks haven't changed a bit. The cost of just surviving compounds, while their real power to survive declines. Chapter 4, Savers versus Wealth Builders. Faced with this silent thief, human behavior tends to fracture into two very distinct mindsets. On one side, you have the average earner, whose strategy relies almost entirely on simply saving money. They fixate solely on the literal amount of money in their bank account. Conversely, the wealth builder recognizes that cash is basically a melting ice cube. They invest, and they focus intensely not on the sheer amount of currency they hold, but on defending and growing their actual purchasing power. So, to counter this systemic wealth destruction, builders deploy their capital into productive vehicles that historically outpace inflation. By holding ownership in businesses, stocks, real estate, and other productive investments, their objective goes way beyond just preserving a static number. Their true goal is an active, aggressive defense. They want to ensure their capital compounds much faster than the relentless increase in the cost of living. Chapter 5: The Complicated Truth. Okay, before we cast inflation purely as an economic villain, we really need to look at macroeconomic reality. Because the truth is, small, controlled amounts of inflation are actually considered normal and even necessary in healthy economies. It structurally encourages us to deploy our capital today rather than just hoarding it, which drives the velocity of money and overall economic expansion. The system only really breaks down when inflation becomes extreme or wildly unpredictable. That's when it destroys consumer confidence and starts fracturing entire economies. Chapter 6: The Final Verdict. After analyzing all these mechanics, the ultimate financial error becomes crystal clear. The biggest mistake you can make is ignoring inflation entirely. It is a fatal error to just fixate on the current amount of money you hold, while rarely, if ever, thinking about what your money will actually be worth in the future. This silent thief thrives on that exact distraction. By retreating to cash and ignoring the economic reality around you, you're voluntarily surrendering your financial future. The truest measure of financial security is captured right here. Building wealth isn't just about making money, it's about protecting the value of the money you already have. Look, inflation is a constant, mechanical certainty of our modern financial system. You can either be its passive victim, or you can leverage an understanding of it to your advantage. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Look at your own financial strategy today and ask yourself, are you building a fortress for your future, or are you just stockpiling melting ice?